everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be watching Loki Assembled. Storm here.
I'm here.
Kimmy here.
Welcome to the multiverse.
Yay!
Oh,
Lokis have done it. Loki and Sylvie. They have
Glorious
well,
purpose.
Sylvie, she actually did. She
Yeah.
killed He Who Remains, which we now know is Cheng the Conqueror. Do we know who that really is? A lot of people have been talking about him online. Thank you guys for sharing your opinions with us. I love all your theories. There's so many cool theories out there, and I could talk forever about them. It's so fun to talk about this. So he is a big comic book villain, and a lot of people, I'm sure, were very excited to see him show up in this series. I was excited, but I didn't know who he was. But how scary, knowing nothing and just hearing his story on what could possibly happen, and how this version of Cheng, this variant, is better, or trying to be better, by containing everything else but destroying trillions of lives to make sure that his other variants don't destroy the universe.
Right.
It's crazy to even think that. So what really makes it right? You know what I mean? Like, is he telling the truth? Even if he is, to a certain extent, are there other ways to actually get rid of Cheng completely? Because I really gave this a lot of thought afterwards, and I feel like Cheng just has to be out of the equation. But how do you do that? Because even with the TVA now, Loki is pretty powerful. There's a lot that he doesn't even know. They don't even know what they can do. And seeing classic Loki on how powerful he was, you know, and then Loki was like, wow, I guess there's a lot of stuff we don't even know about ourselves and how powerful we can be. So, you know, it was hard to contain Loki. And they had to keep putting Lokis, or they had to keep pruning Lokis into the void. So I think that's going to be really hard to destroy He Who Remains.
Well, and He Who Remains only had a short period of time to convince two Lokis, well, Loki and Sylvie, and make them believe his story. And that is a small amount of time where you have Sylvie who's dying to kill him and stop this whole thing, because she's already been hurt in her own timeline.
Yeah.
So much that she just wants to stop it. And our Loki had, you know, he had thoughts of, you know what, I believe this guy, and I think he's telling the truth. I really think we should not kill him and go back to the TVA. And
he was scared. He was actually really scared about it too.
Yeah, and they fought
to,
you know, to try to change each other's, you know, ways, but even a kiss didn't change her mind. So she had her own purpose.
Yeah. And I'm not you. You know, she was so vengeful. And that was so cool to see too, as sad as it was, because here you have different versions of Loki, yes, but Loki, our Loki, you know, he always wanted the throne, and he was really tormented too. Like, he just wanted to be accepted, and he used fear to gain control, to gain power and submission from other races, from other people. And now he has his eyes open, because now he sees a different version of himself suffering the same way he suffered. Different too. I mean, she had a very different life. She was pulled away from everything from a young age, out of her control. So I think now having someone who understands what he went through, and now she's going through it, and he understands it, like, for him to not want the throne now, like, he is more open to his own emotions and understanding who he is, and trying to have her understand. Like, it's so complicated and interesting to see him trying to talk almost like how he felt in the past, down from doing a terrible mistake, but she couldn't help it. Like, she had so much loathing, she had so much revenge in her heart because of her life being destroyed. Her whole entire timeline was destroyed. Very cool idea. And did Sylvie do the right thing killing Cheng? I mean, what is the right answer? She felt defeated. I mean, it seemed like she fell down at the finale after she killed him, thinking, like, I would assume, what have I done? Did I do the right thing? Or did she think, oh, I finally accomplished my goal, now what? Like, what was she feeling in that moment?
I think she realized that she did the wrong thing.
Yeah. And Loki, our Loki, is so scared of this whole thing, going to Mobius. That wasn't our Mobius. No.
I know. And they didn't even recognize him.
No, I know. So now it's like you have to restart and, you know, gain trust again and figure out what's going on. So hopefully Loki doesn't get arrested again by the TVA there. And I don't know. So we'll see what happens. But now we have a multiverse of all these possibilities. So again, guys, please leave your theories below because I'm really curious on what is going to happen. But I'll just throw this out there too. So I started overthinking that this Cheng that we saw is telling a somewhat truth, but for him to still be in control and to try to negotiate with the Lokis, trying to give them a happy timeline that disrupts everything because you want to put these two variants together to live happily, to rule together. Like, why would you be that desperate to make them happy just to keep ruling? So I almost think that maybe even this Cheng that we saw is like the most extreme, maybe even the worst, where he's saying all these things that are true with his other variants causing chaos and destruction, but maybe this one has the most control because he destroys trillions of lives and he gets to have his own order that seems peaceful enough where he has the most control though. Like, he has control over everything. And why would he try to stop these Lokis from getting to him all this time just to say, well, I knew it was going to happen anyways? But he also wanted them to replace him.
That's a good theory. You know, he could be one of the strongest variants and took over the true original He Who Remains. Yeah. You don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's, I mean, there's a lot of theories there, but I'm thinking that, like, maybe this one, even though it seems more peaceful where you have order, he completely just took over everything. Like, he has control over all time now. So maybe the Lokis, maybe Sylvie and Loki were supposed to always not rule over everyone, but maybe they're supposed to be the saviors of the timeline and get rid of Cheng completely somehow. And he didn't want that, so that's why he was so adamant at making sure he got rid of all the variants of Loki so it would never come to be. And he still tried to convince them, and maybe at the end, when he's like, I don't know what's going to happen, they have to make their own choice. When Sylvie killed him and he winked and said, I'll see you real soon. Like, that was almost like he wanted it to happen, where the cycle starts over again, where Cheng wins again, because he replaces himself as a younger person. It's just all interesting.
It's true, and you know why? He probably didn't realize. They probably really caught him off guard, but you can also debate that, where they conquered Elias, so, and they actually got through, you know, with Sylvie enchanting it. So, you know, he probably, that really caught me off guard. Okay, I'll just act cool and...
It's just weird, though, because then he has the script that actually says all of that. So he already knew all that was going to happen. So just interesting. Please leave your comments below. Yeah. Because I'm so curious what you have to say. I can't wait for the multiverse. So much. I know Doctor Strange, a lot of good MCU movies are coming out soon, and a lot of other series as well. So we're definitely going to watch those. And shall we get into this?
Let's
do it.
I love Tom Hiddleston. And I love Sophie Di Martino, too, and everyone else involved in this, which is so great. The directing was wonderful. Anyways, I'm excited. The making of Loki.
Time. No, the other. Thank you. Much better. Time.
I first wore this costume 10 years ago. Can't believe I'm still wearing it. And onward we march.
I remember going to see the first Iron Man. I remember as clear as day the first auditions. I almost remember the scenes. It was a scene between two brothers.
Your savior is here!
As we were kind of stories we wanted to tell. Kevin Feige had this idea that I should go out on stage in character. I'm in. Let's go. It was...
Can you imagine being in the audience?
Right.
Say my name. Say my name! Say my name!
On my way down to coordinate search and rescue.
I mean, honestly.
Shut up.
Is in I beg your pardon.
She would understand the buttons to push to drive Loki crazy.
The passage of time feels very different from a long session in a dentist's chair.
Please don't cut my hair.
A minute is a minute is a minute.
Very elaborate sort of fighting outfit, right?
Absolutely not.
Open it up with a bang.
Oops.
they first spoke to me about Iron Man, I kind of wanted to let Marvel get established a little bit, and so then when they talked to me about Thor, and then about I don't have any superpowers other than the name Mobius, which has a certain power to it.
The story about anti-heroes, such a good foil for Tom.
How's training going?
This time.
Enough.
Back in your cage. See, I can play the heavy
Just gonna
keys
stand.
too.
Ah.
There was a slight sort of pause, and then he said, have you ever played Hamlet? I can't imagine Ben Stiller ever having wondered, God, has Owen ever played Hamlet?
If you had to do a Shakespeare play,
I don't
Dapper.
think I can afford Dapper. I don't think I can afford
Smart.
to shave this.
Yeah.
You know, this might be
Fancy.
from here on out when you see. That's why I like this hat, because this feels a little bit like a gumshoe from kind of.
I love his vest. It's like Robin Williams would work for it.
I love it. It's got that mid-century warmth to it. I really feel like I've bonded with the space.
It is a cool set. Yeah.
For the record, this really does feel like a killing me kind of a room.
You want to have this kind of Big Brother is watching vibe with the TVA.
That feels kind of stuck in the past in that it's very analog. There's a lot of paper, a lot of older machines, but also do this amazing huge job.
Time is it's something that rolls along.
Take a ticket. In some ways, that is one of our simplest sets, and yet the ceilings are 7'6".
I think it's Rocket.
In a pretty humble
The record.
apartment, you typically have 8-foot ceilings.
Don't hesitate to let us know how we're doing.
We're interested in a lot of hierarchy across the whole story. The TVA is.
One panel is lighter on the right side, on the other person it's light on the left side, and the other played with the concept of time and space. If you see
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
the amount of kills, she's scratched in numbers on her helmet.
It's like what the
She's
clones
a
do.
badass. She's proficient. She brings this like warmth to the character, but then she is our most badass. Honestly, she's like an action hero, right?
The light goes on. It's orange when you want to prune something.
You almost hit me.
And then
Good 150 different designs before we landed on something that everyone really liked.
And the sound effect of it too.
The variant we're hunting is you.
I beg your pardon? Loki's biggest battle has always been within himself. Until now.
This show was about...
Trying to chart me.
No.
It won't work.
Why? Because you're a magician.
No, because my mind is too strong.
I would totally lose and start laughing.
Super practical, something that you can fight in, and that Sylvie could be on the run in, rather than high heels and a leotard.
Wow.
So detailed.
Yeah.
Sure is.
And Kazra built a town. He just built the town on the backdrop.
He's so fun. Can imagine.
The architecture itself becomes light sources because there's these elaborate painted patterns that are interactive with light.
It's really quite beautiful.
It's like almost
Ta-da! Which is, I have to say, one of the most amazing sets I have ever been on.
really doing a lot of planning in the early phases. Kate worked with previs and storyboards quite a lot to figure out exactly how much we needed.
We wanted the audience to feel like it's one shot, so we have stitches so you feel like it's one shot from start to finish.
Now I want to rewatch it.
I think it will be
Yeah, that was exciting.
That was.
And devastating.
That's incredible. Every detail said it.
And so mischievous, it's like, of course Loki would fall in love with himself, but he's also a character that I think needs to...
What a incredible seismic narcissist! You fell for yourself.
Her name was Sylvie.
Sylvie.
What we do in this moment can often define our lives in ways we never dreamed of.
Curses. That made me so upset. Amazing, I love it. weird.
When I pitched The Void, I was like, oh my god, I've pitched England. But it really reminded me. What I really wanted to fill in The Void was it's this place where it's like an overgrown garden, and you see all these kind of strange things that are being deleted.
They're pretty much more delicate. They said, no, you're playing classic Loki.
Classic.
Exactly like him.
Green lycra. I would finally get to wear a green lycra suit with built-in muscles, the horns and the cape and the boots.
When I knew that it was drawn with Richard's face, it was like a wish fulfillment. So here we are. We're living the dream.
Yeah, he's
I'm
perfect.
living the dream.
I am in the dream.
You have to say that because the cameras are on.
I'm living in the dream.
There's no acting required because the costume does it. I mean, it's so massive, and I'm 6'6".
He has been.
He's a cat too. Yes.
Lamb Shades, Wolfie, and we had Pokey Loki. It was just another play
Pokey
on
Loki.
prison.
This was so fun.
I know. His scream.
We want to have an alligator that's very handsome with beautiful eyes, and I was like, what is this job?
Oh.
Gross.
And he's just there to eat, and it's great because the TVA are just throwing him loads of T-bone steaks.
No. Bye, classic Loki.
By he who remains.
I love that. I'm just sitting there. It's like, what?
It's Granny Smith.
I was really inspired.
The cape I had on was from the Victoria era. The shoes are from Genghis Khan. The pants from Mongolia, etc. You know, you just mix and match it together, and it informs the character.
We're dancing. Very nice.
It's absolutely thrilling, and you can feel the energy on set.
Cheng is bent on destruction, and I'm so curious to see what Jonathan does in the future. We can already look at our singular universe with awe. One decision begets another and another. We like to say, it ain't over till it's over. Maybe that was Lenny Kravitz. Anyway, the future of Loki is still unwritten.
I love that notion.
It's been 10 going on for 11 years.
Wow.
You know, it's been one of the great, if not the greatest surprise. Today was the first day that I wore this particular costume.
Under this still? Huh? Under this still?
My best friend.
What happened to you on Earth that turned you so soft? To be cast as Loki and to have that extraordinary opportunity this time around is the first chance I've had to see if we can really break the mold and change him.
We'll have to do one more after this, so I don't cry.
I feel very grateful that I'm part of a project that I think has probably changed the direction of the MCU. So the whole interweaving web of all the movies, so they all reference each other. And Mobius has cracked it all open. It's true.
It's cracked it open.
Well, Sylvie kind of did, because she killed He Who Remains. I love it. I love Owen WIlson and Tom Hiddleston together. Like, their chemistry, even just on set, just as themselves, is great.
Instantly clicked.
Mm-hmm. We see that a lot with the assembled videos, where a lot of the cast really do get along. And
that's good.
I do think they're being truthful. I mean, they seem like good people. I don't know if they just do it for the camera or not, but it really seems like they get along well.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, you could tell. Definitely. You could tell the chemistry is definitely there.
They really care for each other, and they get along well. They laugh, and it doesn't seem uncomfortable at all. Like, they're just talking casual and just being very respectful, and seem like they have a lot of fun. I mean, you're spending hours upon hours and many days, and you know, you go to a location. We've seen in other ones that, you know, you spend just days. I don't know how many hours every day on set, but you're there more than not because you need to get through the project before you can go home.
Timing is everything.
Money,
you
know. So pressure's
even with
on.
Tom and Sophia, you can just tell their chemistry is great too. But you can see Owen and Tom's was
that's really great.
Spot on. Perfect.
Yeah, I agree. We saw more of them. We saw more with Owen WIlson and Tom. And I thought they really did have great chemistry. And with Sophia, I really enjoy her as female Loki, as Sylvie. And I am happy with so many things. And I keep going back and forth with the whole thing with her being a Loki. But the fact that she changed her name, her life was completely different. Even though she is a Loki, I do see her as a different person now. And I am opening up my mind more, because I try to go in with an open mind anyways. But it really was hard for me to see her as a love interest for Loki, but now I do see her as a completely different person. So I like how she actually changed her name, that she couldn't stand the name Loki anymore because she didn't see herself as one, and she named herself Sylvie. So that was very good. I see her as a completely different person. It is a great challenge, and amazing that Marvel would even take on this idea of self-love and accepting yourself, because Loki is a very complicated character. You know, he had a very hard life. I mean, he did grow up a prince, but he was lied to all his life. He didn't know he was adopted until later in life. He was always not promised the throne, but he always felt like he would have it after Thor, probably. And anyways, yeah, so him just being not really kind of misled, but then just not feeling good enough in any way, and just trying to find his place and wanting to rule. Like, to see him as a villain and then go through all of this to challenge himself with himself, and to really understand that and have his equal, like to find his equal.
Right,
That was big to see
and that
him turn
equates
around.
to learning about himself, and that he has a deeper meaning of himself. He doesn't have to portray the mischievous, character that he, portrays himself as. He is far deeper, and he only learned that through his variants.
Yeah. So honestly, this is like the deepest show if you really think about it, because I love Marvel, and you have like all these sci-fi things that happen, and I know it's more fantasy too, but I love how deep they get with just his character alone, where he is super complicated, and I think it's so fun. It just amazes me, because also being owned by Disney, I just thought it was such a big challenge. I like using that word, with making him fall in love with himself. Like I knew there would be a lot of people backlashing, like saying like, oh my God, that's incest, but it's not. It's not like a relationship like that. It's not like he is related as a sibling. Like, this is himself, but she is also very different. You have all these, now you have the multiverse that's open. So you have all these possibilities, things change. You have a freaking alligator that's so far removed and not human.
In the comics, they had a cat.
Yeah, they had a cat that we saw. So they're showing us that you are so different, even though you are the same. Like, maybe your soul, like it's a different segment of your soul being spread across multiple universes or something. Like, we still don't fully understand it. So you're still very different, but you can connect on many levels that normal different people can't. So absolutely. I like it. I think it's a very cool story.
I do too. And then He Who Remains is going to have, the same situation.
Yeah.
It's like with the multiverse. It's going to be different variations of himself. Right. So
that's for sure.
Watch out.
Yeah, and Jonathan Majors, I think he's a really good person to play this role. I just like how he was, not knowing Kang. I know he is Kang the Conqueror now, but just the way he was acting, we didn't expect that. And he was so casual and kind of, removed, where he was not really awkward, just bizarre, because he's been by himself for so long. He's lived an eternity with time. He's at the end of time or outside of time or whatever at the Citadel, and you can tell like he's very lonely. Like, it's a grand palace, but he's so lonely, and he doesn't know how to socialize correctly. Like, he's just off. And that was fun. Like, he really played that off well. Them talking even about the costumes was incredible, with him having different attire, like different parts, layers of different times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that
sets
was fun.
Were phenomenal.
They really excited me. Like, they were so much fun. I keep trying to imagine doing stuff like that. Like, we like the other sets too of the different Marvel series, but they're all so extremely different. And this one, I keep saying that, but Loki right now is my favorite, and I just love. I mean, you have so much opportunity, jumping different worlds, different timelines, like all the costumes and sets you can make are limitless.
Yeah, and even right from the start, from how the writers took the start of the story, where they started it, from when he disappeared and started, this journey with him. It was perfect. It was like meant to be. And yeah, I just thought it was amazing. Seeing this assembled makes me feel like this is my favorite out of the three now. Just to what their thought process and how much thought they put into every aspect. The fighting sequences, each character was a different style. I mean,
even Sylvie, thinking of that, like making her very different in that way, because it's life experience on, her being kidnapped from a kid and having to survive by hopping through apocalypse after apocalypse all the time. Like, that's all she knows. So it's all chaos and crazy. So they have to find a relation there where, okay, well, what would her fighting style be? Always on the run, and everything is just crazy around you. So feral cat, I think that's a cool reference to use. And keeping Ravonna, her, like, she has military type style, and she really worked hard to, build herself up to get promoted and now be the judge. So just see her
and even
fighting against
Loki
Sylvie,
is more graceful. He's,
being a prince and brought up a prince. And it's fun to actually hear that. Like, I enjoyed it for everything that it was, even before seeing this, but seeing the behind the scenes really makes you appreciate it more. And now, just looking at the picture of the Timekeepers on Disney Plus, we're always seeing their picture everywhere, to always be reminded that eyes are on us, are always watching everything, down to the light fixtures, down to all these other details. We have eyes almost looking at you, and these subtleties that, the ticket room, and keeping everything kind of very old, but it's bizarre and removed, where you can just believe that, oh yeah, okay, this is different from the timeline. They're outside the timeline, I guess, right, with the TVA. So it just has its own technology, but we can still relate to it to a certain extent, and everything's clunkier but way more advanced. And I just
monitors
think it's
are
great. Yeah, I just freaking love everything about this. That's just the imagination behind this alone was just incredible. And it makes it so fun too, because with all the different series and superheroes, the people we follow, like, they're all so freaking different, but it's so believable that they're all in the same timeline. I want to say timeline, but now we're like, woo, open box here, guys. So I know Doctor Strange is coming out. There's a ton of other things coming out too that I hope go to the multiverse, and we'll see. I think Spider-Man as well. I hope Loki comes back. I know we have season 2 coming out, which I'm very excited about, probably next year. And I'm very curious how all this is going to intertwine, and I hope Loki and Sylvie end up in the MCU. Of course, Loki probably will, which I'm happy about, because we were so devastated about him dying by Thanos' hands, like him actually crushing his neck. Like, that was awful. And we saw Loki go through this whole journey of him just being evil, but he never seemed always evil. Like, he struggled. He always did love Thor, but he just couldn't help but betray him to get the better hand of something. Like, he always just wanted to rule, and
always hurt.
Yeah, and he was always hurt. So even though he hurt people, seeing him more open in this, like, he had more screen time in this series alone, which I thought he had a whole lot more screen time in the MCU, but he was in, 6 movies? But just because of that doesn't mean that you're constantly in the movie. So to actually try to have all this time with him, like, they did such a good job, because you only care about him more, and you're like, oh my God, like, he really did go through so much suffering, and he never liked what he did, because he had so many other people suffer because of him.
That's your day.
Yeah, and he has such a following that, what the directors were saying and the writers were saying, that, he had such a following for such a small amount of time that he actually was on the movies. I mean, he had a huge fan base.
He's like the black sheep, and people can relate to that,
Everyone loved him,
And that was fun for him to go out to his fans and just pretend to be Loki. And he has, like, all these followers already. Like, okay, what do you say? Say my name. That was so funny. And he's great. He's a great actor. And, I mean, being on camera is amazing. And to do it in front of your fans and not break face. Because I can't imagine, like, of course I'm not an actor, but going out and seeing your fans, I feel like you would break character more, because you want them to realize that you're not crazy or something, or you're not like, just being awkward. You'd be like, oh, I am a real person, you just kind of like break at some point, meaning that you would laugh and not be serious the whole time. But he stayed true. Like, he's just that good, where he knew to stay true to it. And his, like, sinister smile that he does, like, I'm mischievous.
That's right.
Yeah, so amazing. I love these.
good.
I love Assembled so much. I mean, the acting is just incredible. I love Tom Hiddleston so much. And Sophie Di Martino is also great. Like, I think she's perfect
very
for
good.
Sylvie. And I think that Jonathan Majors is great for Cheng. And I'm very curious
hands down,
and excited how
he
he's
was
going
the
to be.
glue, too.
Mhm. To see how he's going to be as variants. It's going to be very interesting to see.
right.
And again, guys, please leave your theories. We kind of went on a rant in the beginning of this on what we think might happen. And I know it's pretty much infinity times of all these different theories that could possibly happen. Was Cheng the one that we saw in this series? Like, was he telling the truth? Is he a good one? Does he seem good? Is he actually the worst one that completely took over everything? And he's just playing it cool? I don't know.
Is he gone?
Is he gone?
That
Gone?
one?
I'm assuming,
I
but
don't
who
think
knows?
he's
Yeah.
gone.
He's gone.
Well, I know the variants.
That
I think
particular
he's
one.
gone, but I think all the variants now are going to come up
Oh,
and
yeah.
rise
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
I think I'll just make it more basic here. Again, we did the tangent in the beginning of this intro, but I think that Loki and Sylvie were meant not to rule the timeline, but to set it free and maybe be the protectors of keeping everyone with free will for them to make their own choices in life, keep everything open. And they have to get rid of Cheng completely. I don't know how they would do that, but maybe that's how it was supposed to be. But Cheng, even this good Cheng, who wanted peace to a certain extent, he's actually just controlling and killed trillions of timelines to keep this main one. So he still killed trillions of lives either way, really. And now I think he still wanted control by getting rid of these Lokis because he still wanted to be in existence and have some kind of control somewhere. So I feel like that might be a ploy as well. Like that might be why he tried to avoid these Lokis for so long, because if he knew all of this was going to happen and still tried to convince them, like why even go through that, because it doesn't change anything to convince
Right,
them.
if you know the outcome.
Yeah, like why be like, oh, you guys can live happy together ruling, like you both would want a happy life and rule, so why not just do that? But why even do that, because it didn't change their course of action at all. So it was almost like a desperate attempt to make them anyways.
But he
not
also
kill him.
went, he was getting very weak when he didn't know what they were going to decide what to do.
At that
I have
moment,
a feeling
yeah.
they're going to need Elias.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's going to be a thing too, because Cheng had to enchant or overpower that beast to make all this happen. So I think that will come into play as well. So very good. I love Assembled. I can't wait for more Loki. Please leave your comments below. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Can't wait for the next series on Disney Plus for Marvel.
I know. I can't
wait.
believe it. That's fantastic.
It's fantastic. So thank you guys so much for
Glorious.
watching. It was a glorious show, and we'll see you very
Glorious
soon. As
purpose.
always, have a glorious purpose and love yourself, guys.
That's right.
Please subscribe. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.